She didn't run away to find herself. She stayed and watched everything false burn. The worst kind of prison is the one you decorate. Nina had decorated hers beautifully with woven rugs, framed affirmations, a diffuser humming lavender, and a perfectly curated shelf of self-help books that made her look enlightened even when she felt empty. From the outside, her life made sense. She had a secure job in digital strategy, a loyal if emotionally passive partner, and a circle of friends who shared podcasts, vision boards, and discount codes for organic wine. But inside something was off. Not broken, not even bruised, just off. It started like a dull ache in the soul, a whisper she could almost ignore. A sense that the smile she wore didn't quite reach her chest. That her daily routines felt like rituals to a god she no longer believed in. That the person she saw in photos, cheerful, polished, likable, wasn't the same person who stared blankly at the ceiling at 3 a.m., wondering what it would be like to disappear for a year without telling anyone. One Thursday afternoon, between meetings and errands, Nina sat in her parked car outside a dentist's office. Her appointment had been canceled last minute. She had 20 unscheduled minutes. No distractions, no next task. Just stillness. And that's when it happened. She looked in the mirror and without thinking said aloud, "I don't recognize myself anymore." It wasn't dramatic. There was no sobbing, no shaking hands. Just a simple truth laid bare in the kind of quiet that doesn't beg to be fixed, only heard. A gust of wind outside rocked the car slightly. She exhaled slowly and realized she'd been holding her breath for years. That night she walked home slower than usual. Not because she was tired, because something was unraveling. Every block felt heavier. Not physically, spiritually. As if each step brought her. She called in sick the next morning. No explanation, just a quiet "I need space." Her manager, confused, said he hoped everything was okay. She said nothing, because it wasn't okay. And also it wasn't not okay. It was necessary. Nina didn't spend the day resting. She wasn't tired. She was alive. In a way she hadn't been since she was 19 and still dared to believe that creativity mattered more than productivity. That mystery was holy. That truth was better than approval. She pulled every item out of her closet and placed them in 3 piles. Me, not me, and who is this for? The third pile was the largest. Sequin dresses she never wore but kept in case of special occasions. Tight black jeans that reminded her of someone else's version of sexy. A blazer gifted by a mentor who'd once told her, "You have to learn how to look the part." She didn't cry. She just folded each item like a goodbye. Each goodbye felt like a small piece of her returning home. She lit a candle, opened her journal, wrote at the top of the page, "I no longer perform for rooms I wouldn't want to die in." Then beneath that, "The woman I am becoming doesn't need costumes. She needs truth." The scent of sandalwood filled the room, and for the first time she didn't feel lost. She felt like someone had just taken their hands off her shoulders and said, "Go." Not "go figure it out," not "go fix yourself," just go. Go toward the real. Go toward the voice inside that had been whispering for years. You're allowed to belong to yourself. By the third day, Nina understood something she had never truly grasped. Transformation isn't something you plan. It's something that happens when you stop lying to yourself. She didn't call it a healing journey. She hated that word now. It felt too clean, too brandable. What she was doing wasn't healing. It was remembering. Remembering the girl who used to sing in stairwells. The one who once shaved her head in college just to feel wind on her scalp. The one who wrote poetry on the backs of receipts and whispered them into her pillow. That girl didn't care about aesthetics. She cared about aliveness. So Nina stopped brushing her hair. Not as an act of defiance, but freedom. She stopped scheduling. She stopped answering texts unless they made her chest expand. She muted every group chat. She turned off every notification. Her boyfriend, or whatever he was now, noticed. He came home that evening, looked at her sitting on the floor with piles of books and paper and burned-out candles and said, "Are you okay?" She looked up dead calm and replied, "No, I'm honest." He didn't know what to do with that. The next morning she woke to silence. No buzzing alarm, no footsteps, no emails, just the light crawling across her bedroom floor like slow forgiveness. She got up and walked barefoot into the kitchen, opened the fridge, took out a lemon, sliced it, squeezed the juice into a glass of cold water. Drank it slowly. It was the most present she'd ever been while drinking anything. She sat on the windowsill and watched pigeons fight over crust. There was something holy about their ugliness. Their wings still worked. She reached for her phone out of habit and then stopped. Instead, she picked up an old notebook. Not the kind she used for work. The kind she used when she still believed that words had power. She flipped to a blank page, wrote one sentence, "What do I know that I've been pretending not to know?" And then came the flood. That I hate pretending to like people who exhaust me. That I have been using productivity as anesthesia. That my body isn't broken, it's begging. That I've never been as okay as I looked. Her hand trembled as she wrote, not from fear, from release. She didn't stop for 2 hours. When she finally looked up, she felt lighter. Not because anything had changed outside, but because she was finally walking out of the prison she built out of praise. She began making a list, things that are leaving, guilt for resting, clothes I wear for approval, relationships based on performance, the phrase should have, the need to answer every message, my obsession with being palatable, every lie that made me lovable. She wrote them slowly, carefully, like spells, because that's what they were. She wasn't cleansing, she was casting. Every boundary she created wasn't just protection, it was prophecy. The more she said no, the more her body relaxed. The more she let go of stories that weren't hers, the more space she found for silence. And in that silence, she began to hear herself again. I missed you, she said it out loud, to the part of her she'd buried under tasks and timetables, to the voice that used to guide her before the world taught her how to conform. That night she danced. No music, no mirrors, just breath, just movement, just the raw, wild magic of being in a body that no longer asked for permission. She collapsed into bed and whispered, "We're coming back." Not to society, not to branding, but to self. She started saying strange things in conversations, things like, "I'm no longer interested in being liked. That version of me doesn't exist anymore. I'm not healing, I'm remembering. You can love me or not, I'll still be me." People didn't know how to respond. Some grew distant, others got defensive. A few whispered, "I wish I could do what you're doing." She smiled at those ones and gently replied, "You can. But first you have to let it all burn." She wasn't being poetic. She meant it literally. Burn the calendar. Burn the expectations. Burn the internalized capitalism disguised as self-discipline. Burn the fantasy version of yourself that was built for applause, not peace. One friend, her oldest, called her in. It happened on a Tuesday. Nina was walking through the park, wind pressing against her cheek like a reminder she was alive. She had no headphones in, no agenda, no deadline, just breath. She stopped at a bench. An old man sat beside her. They didn't speak at first, just watched a child chase a pigeon with reckless abandon. Then he said, "He doesn't know he'll grow out of that." Out of what she asked, wonder. Nina smiled. Maybe he doesn't have to." The man turned, studied her like someone looking for a name they once knew. "You're not like most people." She didn't say thank you. She just nodded, because she knew what he meant. Most people carry a weight that isn't theirs. Most people shapeshift until they forget what their original form looked like. Most people only realize they've been living someone else. 1 year later, she sat in a small cabin in the mountains, alone, joyful, quiet. She'd left the city, started teaching meditation, but only the kind that made people feel embodied, not numbed. She no longer explained her joy. She no longer diluted her depth. She no longer tried to become understandable to those committed to misunderstanding her. Instead, she lived, fully, messily, magically. A new journal sat on the table beside her. The first page held just one sentence. "You are the magic you've been looking for, but first you have to burn everything that isn't you." She didn't need to write more. That sentence was the story of a woman who had once mistaken approval for love, perfection for peace, control for safety, and who had let it all go to meet herself for the very first time. She stood at the window as snow began to fall, slow, deliberate, clean. Each flake a quiet miracle. She placed one hand on her heart, closed her eyes, and